bike, this is kind of the way I did it. Obviously, there's more than one way to do it. I'm not sure if this is the recommended manufacturer's way to suggest to do this, but however, this is the way I did it. What's up, YouTubers? Welcome back to another C-Tech video. Today we're going to be working on the Honda TRX 90. We're going to be changing the rear sprocket, front sprocket, as well as the chain too. So if you want to come in and check out some of the tools that we will be using, we have our cutoff wheel to get the chain off, screwdriver to pop the link off, a couple ratchets here. I have an 8mm on the smaller one, and 3/8 with a long extension for my 17. A couple wrenches here on my particular one. I'm gonna need a 12 and a 4. Most people will probably just need the 14. I'm sorry, 14 here, right? And then a 17 wrench here to break some of these rear bolts off here to adjust the chain, and then impact gun with a socket on there, 17 if you need it. So those are the tools we'll be working on today. All right, so we have the rear end jacked up. We removed the wheel for easier access right here. If you want to come over here and check this out. So I started up front here. We have two 8mm bolts holding this cover on right here. So we have one up top here, as well as one down below here that we'll need to break off. So I'll go ahead and start ratcheting those off, get those off, and we'll come right back with it off. All right, so we got the 8mm bolts out. We'll go ahead and slide this cover off here. You have this little rubber bushing here holding this thing. Just go ahead and slide that out, and then just wiggle this free here. You can snap it. So I pull this plastic piece back out here. You can probably take off the heel guard here. However, I chose to leave it on. I could access it, so it wasn't a problem. So this right here will expose your chain as well as your drive gear up here. But we'll go ahead and hop to the rear end and start working on that part here. All right, so the next step I did, I went ahead and removed the chain here. What we'll have to do is get a grinder and just grind down these rivets here, and then we'll pop the link off, and that'll free up the chain to where we can go ahead and unwrap the chain here. So we'll go ahead and pick a spot, one of these links here, and we'll go ahead and shave off these rivets here, and then we'll take a flathead and then pop that link off, and then we'll be able to slide the link out and disconnect the chain. We got those rivets shaved down, so what we'll do now is put a screwdriver here and just pop off that faceplate of that link. There, we got the link off. Slide the link out, and then we got our chain broke. So I'll go ahead and remove our chain. We got the chain off. We'll go ahead and take our rear sprocket off. It'll be these 4 bolts here with a 17mm. Go ahead and pop our rear sprocket off here. Should slide out. There's our old one there. All right, so here's our old sprocket, new sprocket here, obviously. Taking a look at the old one. Pretty bad. I've seen a lot worse, but definitely needs to be replaced compared with the new teeth on here. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Slide the sprocket on. And then go ahead and put those bolts back on. Snug these up to the manufacturer's torque specs here. We have our pry bar in here just to hold it so we can torque this down. like manufacturer spec right there. So good to go here on the rear end. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and move up to the front sprocket now. All right, so we have the front drive sprocket up front. It has two 10 millimeters on here. So I'll go ahead and use my screwdriver to wedge it in there, and then we'll go ahead and crack these bolts off and remove the front sprocket. Okay, stop it. We got our 10 millimeter bolts out. We'll have this retainer clip that's on here too. We'll need to rotate it a little bit so the teeth and the grooves line up on there, and it'll slide off. Once we've got that off, let's go ahead and pull our gear, our sprocket off. Okay, so here's a comparison with our old sprocket here and our new sprocket here. Again, it's pretty worn down, so we'll just go ahead and replace it since we're here. Otherwise, if we were to replace the chain with the old sprockets, we'd probably just chew through the new chain as well. So go ahead and replace everything while we're here. Another thing to note, on the gearing, I'm not playing with the gearing right now, so I'm just replacing it with the stock factory sizes on here. Once we get everything replaced, then we can mess with the gearing on here to see if we want to go up or down. So we'll just line up our teeth here on the sprocket, give it a little wiggle. I'll go ahead and slide in right there, and then we can put our retainer clip back in and go ahead and put those two 10 millimeter bolts in that we removed. So take our 10 millimeters, go ahead and line them back up. Notice our particular sprocket here has two sets of holes, so line them up. If yours is like that, line them up with the bolts, obviously, that fit that one. Spin that around. Start. Stop. Okay. And it feels like we got these torqued down to the torque specs listed in the owner's manual. So we're good to go there. So we'll go ahead and get our chain on, take our measurements, and then connect our chain. We got the chain adjusted in the rear. We'll go ahead and put this cover back on, put our two 8 millimeter bolts here, and slide this rubber piece back in, and we'll get that bolted up, and then we should take her for a ride and see how she goes. All right, so the next step we'll do here is we'll go ahead and break these bottom bolts here. This is 17 millimeter here. These are for our chain tensioner that's down here. So we'll go ahead and loosen these up. I have a 14 millimeter on here. It looks like there's a 12 millimeter that's on here too, just to double lock this nut up here. And then we'll remove these two down here. I went ahead and just broke these two up top here. These 17 millimeters, just to make it a little bit easier to do my chain adjustment here. So I like to pull it out a little bit, and then put our chain in on, and then put our chain on and measure it there. That way we still have a little free play and adjustment that we can use to either tighten or loosen the chain as needed. So here's our new chain here. We're going to have to take some measurements, and then this chain looks a little bit longer than the factory one, so we'll have to break it down, and I'll show you that with a chain breaking tool here. And then we have our two sets of links here, whether we're going to press it on, or in our case we're going to use this clip and with the clip lock and slide it on. So we'll go ahead and feed this up through here, get our measurements, and then we'll go ahead and break this chain. So for me, what I'm going to do here is we got our links here, we got a measurement here. I pulled on this rear axle to make sure that we had still a little bit of room to tighten this chain up here. So I'll go ahead and break this chain off here on this link here, and then we'll go ahead and put our connecting link on and go ahead and put that clip on. So one of the things, you just want to make sure that you have a little bit of slack here, but you also want to make sure that you still have enough room to tighten this up. That way you can get some of this free play out of the chain. So we'll go ahead and cut this link off here, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So once we got a measurement here, what I'll do is I'll do the same thing that I did to break the other chain. I'll just grind these two rivets down here, pop this clip off, and then I'll release the link out there. We can slide it out the other end. All right, now that we got these two rivets here shaved off, we'll just take a screwdriver in here and pop that link off just like that. And we'll go ahead and lift this remainder of the chain up, and we can slide that link out. And make sure that we're still lined up okay, which we are, and we'll go ahead and put our connecting link in there and put the clip in there, lock it in place. On this particular chain, we did not need to use their chain breaker on here, so we had to skip that step, but we'll go ahead and put our link on now. All right, so this master link here will come like this. We'll slide this through, put this on, and then put our clip on to pop it into place, and then we'll lock the chain in place, and I'll go ahead and tighten the chain from there. All right. I like to slide it in from this side, that way the clip's on the inside and going in this direction. That way, if anything does jump up and hit it, a branch or anything, doesn't pop this clip off. So go ahead and put our link on here. If you want to, so we'll just slide this on here like this, and then we'll take our clip on here, slide on one. I'll grab a pair of pliers, and then we'll just slide this and lock this down into place here. So put our clip on here, slide it down into place. What I'll do is I'll just take a pair of needle nose and then just pop that clip into that last one right there. And then we'll go ahead and tighten our chain on. All right, so now that we got the chain on here, I'll just go ahead and slide this back just a little bit so we got some enough of the slack out of here. And then what we'll do is we'll just kind of fine tune it from the chain tensioner down here on bottom to remove the remainder of that slack that's in there. So I'll go ahead and pull this back a little bit, and then we'll tighten down these 17mm bolts that we did down here, lock those into place, and then we'll tighten the two up top, and then we'll just fine tune down here with that. Okay, so once you set it down, you can see chain got a little bit tight there. So what I'm going to do is readjust this. So I will loosen those same 17mm bolts that are down there. Now we got some slack in there. Now what I'll do is I'll just tighten those bolts back down, and then I'll just fine tune from here and tighten this down here. No time lapse. Okay, so once you set it down, you can see chain got a little bit tight there. So what I'm going to do is readjust this. So I will loosen those same 17mm bolts that are down there. Ahead. Now we got some slack in there. Now what I'll do is I'll just tighten those bolts back down, and then I'll just fine tune from here and tighten this down here. No time lapse. We got some more slack in here. So what I'll do is I'll come down here, tighten this down. What about 3/4 of an inch play in there. And then looks good right about there. So once we've got the right play in there, go ahead and tighten our 4 17mm bolts down. Put our chain guard back on. Go ahead and lube the chain up and I'm sorry, lube the chain back up. Take it for a test spin, see how it rides. After a little ride, you can check it again. If you need to make any more adjustments, you can do it from there. All right, guys, so I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out CTEC's next video.